If you perused YouTube around 2013, you probably remember seeing thumbnails of people overreacting to a horror game that looked like this. While not exactly the same kind of game, Outlast rode off the Let's Play storm that Amnesia: The Dark Descent created, which helped catapult Outlast to a more widespread success. And it is an absolutely amazing and terrifying horror game to boot that got a pretty decent sequel a few years later in 2017. Developer Red Barrels announced that a third game in the series would be on the way, but in 2019 there was a surprise announcement that a multiplayer spin-off was in the works called the Outlast Trials. The game was finally released on May 18, 2023 to generally favorable reviews, but even as a fan of the franchise it kinda went under my radar. With the kind of games that release today, when I hear the buzzwords like multiplayer, co-op, online, pseudo live service, my attention to it kind of shuts off. So color me surprised when I decided to pick it up on the Steam Summer Sale this year for $15, and it's actually an awesome little game that I wanted to spread the word of. The premise is as follows. The year is 1959, the Cold War is well underway, and the Murkoff Corporation, an evil entity responsible for horrible experiments on the mentally ill, are recruiting volunteers for a new project. And as seen in the absolutely brutal opening cutscene, by recruiting volunteers, I really mean tricking vulnerable homeless people into signing up for MKUltra experiments in a prison facility. The game begins with a tutorial sequence in which your character volunteers, and when you arrive, you have a pair of night vision goggles surgically screwed into your head, and then you're forced to destroy all of your public records by the lead scientist, Dr. Easterman, essentially rendering you a permanent puppet to do their bidding. After this, you get to create your reagent, which is what they call you, the main character, and you're sent into a little hub zone. Outlast has always been the kind of horror experience where you're mainly running and hiding instead of directly fighting, and this is why it shocked me how well it translates into an online experience. Essentially, you're placed in this facility to run what they call the trials, which in-universe are missions that you're undertaking so they can mind control you into being an evil soldier for Murkoff. Each one has a different objective, like murdering a witness at a trial, helping brainwash an orphanage with subliminal messaging, and a host of other nefarious things. Once you load in with your team, you get to explore a maze-like environment in order to reach this goal, while sneaking around other brainwashed creatures that they call X-Pops, solving puzzles together, and getting jump-scared. You also aren't going in empty-handed. You get to purchase these classes called rigs, which give you tools that do different things. One gives you a free electronic hack for locks, one gives you door barricades, one gives you a stun for enemies, and so on. There are also upgrades you can get, like improving your sprint speed and stamina, and equipable items like shoes that make less noise, and it's a lot of fun to come up with different builds and strategies using all the options that they give you. What really makes this game enjoyable for me, though, is the way that they handle the theme. The facility hub is just so incredibly detailed. For one, you get to customize your cell and walk around seeing what other people have set up as far as posters and props and items, which is really cool. But as you walk around the facility, you see all these closed-off side corridors with the masked scientists walking in and out of rooms, tables with people laying down on beds, and these windows where you just see them silently observing you. Even the upgrades are called prescriptions, which just works together to immerse you in this terrible messed-up situation you're in. Even the levels themselves are unique because you're going through these trials that are set up within the facility. So as an example, in the new mall level that they released, you're not just walking through a mall, but rather a cobbled together mall that the captors constructed in what looks to be a warehouse. So you see mannequins as stand-ins for the people, and you can see the facility ceiling and walls beyond the mall, and it's just such a unique feel that I haven't really seen before anywhere else. On top of that, there are these big boss enemies called the Prime Assets that preside over each level and sort of serve as the top dog. Each one of them is really disturbing and creepy, and they have crazy backstories. Unfortunately, they don't cover a lot of it in the game, but I did find a small comic series on Red Barrel's website that sort of goes into each of their backgrounds, and I think it's really good. I just wish it was something that you could find in-game. There's also a mechanic called Rebirth, which seems kind of like a prestiging system that apparently gives you a few different story endings, but I haven't gotten far enough to unlock it, so I can't comment on what they are. Being that it's a live service game, though, there's tons of different events and changes and content that rotates in all the time. So the game might be in a completely different state than it is when you're watching the video, but it seems like they really put a lot of care into it, and the community, while small, feels tight-knit and invested as far as I can see. Everybody's been really friendly, and it's been a lot of fun playing with random people, which doesn't happen all that often. There's a couple of DLC skin packs, but it largely is free from most of the trappings of this genre, which is really a delight. My biggest gripe is that there are the main trials and some smaller ones, but the big ones take about 45 minutes to complete. This is fine, but it makes it kind of hard to replay them as often when you have to commit to being in it the entire thing or you don't gain any progress. It does do a good job of randomizing things every time you load the levels, so there's definitely some variability, but I can see people burning out on the core gameplay loop after doing it a few times over. There are plenty of collectible notes and unlockable customizations, but it really isn't the kind of game I think you're getting hundreds of replayable hours out of. Now, that's not accounting for all the things that they add, which does seem like they do pretty often. In my opinion, though, this isn't a bad thing. I'd be hard-pressed to call the game relaxing, but I haven't played a multiplayer game this laid back in a while where I find it fun to just join a match or two without the pressure of battle passes or time-gated content. And I hinted at it before, and I'll say it again, this is actually a quite disturbing horror game in terms of its theme and the prime asset's stories and even the things you're doing and hearing in the levels. It isn't for the faint of heart, which could turn some people off from playing. Most of the lore is contained within these scattered notes that you pick up in the levels, which is kind of frustrating to me because it's one of the game's strongest areas, but it makes it next to impossible to digest all of it when it's distributed in this way. Again, most people probably won't care about it, but it did annoy me, so it's worth noting. I also forgot to mention that it looks incredible and runs like a dream, even with ray tracing cranked up, which is a shocker because it's an Unreal Engine title. Whatever black magic they're doing here is working wonders. I don't know if I'd ultimately recommend paying full price, but it's a hell of a lot of fun and can be a good time with friends, especially if you're looking for something that's a change of pace from the usual formula. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's a solid title that's top of its class in what it offers. And you can arm wrestle in the lobby, which might be the best part. If you've played the Outlast Trials before, let me know what you think about it and if you agree or disagree with anything that I said. I know it was kind of fast, but I wanted to try out a shorter form, rapid fire review kind of video, but if you do prefer the longer and more detailed kinds, I do want to know. Either way, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.